or whatever you want to call it, where we talk about real solutions to real shit, real problems that real people have. And this is that time. So, I want to share something with you that's really, really important to me, and it should be really important to you, and that is freedom. A lot of times today in recent times, you hear a lot about freedom. You talk about freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of religion, freedom, freedom, freedom. Freedom is a hot topic right now. But most people really don't understand what freedom is. So let's start with a dictionary definition of what freedom is. So the first one is the power or right to act, speak, or think as one wants without hindrance or restraint. So I'm going to put that in the chat here so that everyone can see it, and I'm going to put it on the screen so everyone can see it. So that's one definition of freedom. The second definition of freedom is the absence of subjection to foreign domination or despotic government. Once again, the absence of subjection to foreign domination or despotic government. So I'm going to put this on the screen so that you can see it. And it will, for those of you who are watching live, you'll catch this live. For those of you who are not, you'll see it after the fact because this shows up on the screen. So one last definition of freedom is the state of not being imprisoned or enslaved. The state of not being imprisoned or enslaved. And once again, I'm going to put this on screen because, see, these things are really important to understand. So if you're looking at it in the chat, these definitions are going to show up in the chat. They're also going to show up on the screen for people who are watching it live and also for those who are watching it on replay. Now, this is the thing. Now, I have my own definition of freedom, and freedom is this. Freedom is the ability to do as you will up to the point that it may harm someone. Now, I've talked before about the difference between hurt and harm, and it's really important to distinguish those two because there are things that people will say to you that hurt you. They'll hurt your feelings, they'll hurt your sensitivity, all of that, your sensibilities. It may hurt those things. But there's a difference between hurt and harm because what hurts you may not necessarily harm you. If you say something that causes someone lasting or irreparable damage to their income, to their state of being, to their ability to exercise the franchise of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, anything like that, those are things that inhibit freedom. So, and also those are things that cause harm. So, that being said, the first thing that I want to talk about is like being free, because a lot of us are in bondage in numerous ways. We may be in bondage financially. That is, you are under a crushing mountain of debt, or that the only way that you can pay your bills is through a job that you detest or dislike, or that you're beholden to someone for money, right? So that's one of the areas of financial bondage, or this is an example of financial bondage. Then there is personal bondage, and personal bondage takes a lot of different shapes, but I'm going to talk specifically about relationship bondage. One of the ways that people are bound in relationships and they lack freedom in relationships is that people get into what they call trauma bonds. And trauma bonds are basically where you ally yourself or entangle yourself with someone based on some common trauma. In other words, it may be that you're domestic abuse survivors or church abuse survivors, or it may be that it could be sexual abuse, any of those things. And so you basically bond based on what happened to you. And those are forms of imprisonment, because when you're trauma bonded, you're bonded. You're in bondage. And one of the things that you need to do is you need to understand how trauma bonds are formed and how to get free from them. So we talked about financial relationship, and then there's spiritual bondage. And this is a part that a lot of people aren't going to like, because one of the things that people get in bondage around religion. In other words, religion says that if you don't do this, this, and this, then basically you're in danger of eternal damnation. You are in danger of hellfire. Okay. And also, if you don't toe the religious party line, then you will be ostracized, excommunicated, deemed a heretic or an apostate. And these are all forms of bondage. And when you start talking about freedom, financial freedom is this, and this is really, really critical, because I'm on the record as saying money actually does buy happiness. People say money doesn't buy happiness, but guess what? Money absolutely does buy happiness. And the more money you have, the less nonsense you have to endure. Or the more money you have, the more time you have at your disposal. Or the more money you have, the more things that you can add to your life that will increase your peace or your happiness. And I'll also say that life, as pertains to finances, is like a shit sandwich. The more bread, that is money, that you got, the less shit, that is bullshit, that you have to eat. So if you think of it that way, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you have enough bread that you don't have to eat any shit. Now, what I'm going to say here is controversial, and is that you need multiple streams of income. Now, I'm also on the record as being very socialist in my economic approach. And I really think that everybody should have enough resources that they can live without basically the sword of Damocles hanging over their head financially, and be able to enjoy some things. Now, unfortunately, we live in a capitalistic society, so that is not the ideal in a capitalist society. So what you have to do is you can't depend on one income to ensure your lifestyle. You're going to have to hustle. And let me say this, for everyone that's listening, getting a second job is a temporary solution, but it is not the solution, because guess what? If you have a second job, that means you're going to have to work twice as hard. And freedom is not work, does never, freedom will never come from working harder. Where freedom comes from is working smarter. So that means you have to develop some intellectual property or something else that develops a stream of income, irrespective of what your activity is. In other words, residual income, something that produces ongoing income. Now, there are some people that will talk about, well, network marketing or multi-level marketing or pyramids, whatever you want to call it. I don't believe that that's it either, because the way multi-level marketing works is that only the people who are at the top of the pyramid get paid. That's just the way it works. And so you're constantly developing downlines that never produce or never push you up to the top. Basically, network marketing is only for the early adopters. And when I say early adopters, I'm talking about like the first 100 or so people in. It only works for them. Once I've been talked to about different multi-level marketing things. They say, hey, well, we're in our first year. Well, in your first year, how many people have you recruited? Well, if that number is somewhere north of 500,000 or 1 million people, guess what? There are just too many people to make it work for you. You're just never going to get there. You can hustle, but it's not going to happen. But that's another thing. I don't want to make this a referendum on network marketing. The other thing, relationships. You have to learn to identify who is in your circle. And again, you have your outer circle, which are people you know, your inner circle, your friends and family who you're close to, and then your dot. Your dot are the ride or die people. Those when you go to someone in your dot and you say, "Hey, I need a kidney," everybody lines up to say, "Hey, I got you." Those are the people that are in your dot. That they have a vested interest in whether you live or die, whether you thrive or fail. That's your dot. And in order to be free from relationships, whether they be trauma bonds, whether they be marital bonds, or whatever it is, what you have to do is you have to look at, okay, does do these people create opportunity? Do they create an ability to share myself in an uninhibited way? Are they in tune to my thoughts that don't harm people? And if that's the case, these are the people you want to keep. You want to keep people who are adding to your freedom. But the people who are taking away from your freedom, people who put restraints on you, people who basically criticize what you do all the time, or people that don't support what you do, or they're constantly running contrary to your line of thinking. These are people that you are in bondage to, and you need to get free from them. And the best way to get free from them, I like Paul Simon's old song, 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover. Go back and listen to that. 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover. Sneak out the back, Jack. Make a new plan, Stan. Don't need to be coy, Roy. Just listen to me. So go and listen to that song, because that's real talk. Sometimes you just have to cut people off if they're not adding to your freedom. If they're not helping you get to the destination you're looking to get to, they are a hindrance to your destination. And again, you getting free is probably the most important thing in your life. It's getting to the point where you can do the things that are important to you, that you can say the things that are important to you, and you can say them without repercussions, that without any meaningful blowback. Because again, if you can say these things, and that means you can be an agent for change. If you can do these things, you can do things that will change your life. But if you have people that are keeping you in bondage in one way or the other, you can't. You just simply can't. And one of the things that I'm grateful for is that I have people in my life who are pushing me and encouraging me, and they're sharing with me the things that I need to be free, that they allow me to express myself without inhibition, and I am so grateful for that. So that's the message for today. Freedom. What is freedom? What is bondage? How do you get free? How do you identify bondage? And all of those things. These are all key elements in you obtaining freedom. Because again, if you're not free, you're in bondage. But here, one thing I have to say before I go, you have to understand that freedom also means free to be dumb. And that means you don't want to write or use your freedom to write checks with your mouth that your ass can't cash. Do not use your freedom to try to step on or hurt or to obstruct the freedom of others. Okay? So that's what I have for you this week. I hope that that's encouraging, and I would like to hear what your thoughts are in the comments. Please put them in there, and I will read every one of them and will reply in next week's show. What I'll start doing is I'll take the comments from the previous week's show and discuss them at the opening of the next one. So until the next time, may you be happy, may you be well, may you be filled with peace.